Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Community Dissection. In this episode, we are going to dissect a community that I have long heard many tales of their community-led retail strategy. And I'm excited to dive into the Lululemon community today. So we have two guests with us. Lila Faria is back. Say hi, Lila.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Lila. And Laura Zug is joining us as well.
Hi. Can't wait to do this.
I'm so glad that Laura could join us. Well, both Lila and Laura. Lila has amazing insights, and Laura also, in addition to her insights, has been a part of the Lululemon ecosystem for years. So I'm excited to get your insights, Laura, about your experience as a member. Because I would categorize you as like someone who would be an all-star community member. So I'm curious to see how the ecosystem has like activated you and like encouraged you, and where it has maybe discouraged you because of the lack of organization. But I won't give anything away. So before I dive in, I want to give a little bit of background on just Lululemon and the community. So Lululemon was founded in actually 1998 in Vancouver, Canada by Chip Wilson. And initially it was focused on creating high quality yoga clothing that could withstand a demanding yoga practice. But over time, it expanded its offering to a wide range of clothing for men and women. And community has long been touted as a part of the strategy for Lululemon. And in the beginning, I remember reading like actually years ago about their early strategy being really saturating a city by hosting events and finding ambassadors connected to their retail space. And then once they completely saturated that city, moving on to a new one. In those experiences, and like it's a very events centric retail brand, which is pretty unique. And they would promote Lululemon products, embody the brand values and health and wellness. And that was really a big part of how their prowess sort of exploded across North America specifically. What's tricky about this dissection is because Lululemon's approach is it's a hybrid of online and in-person, and it definitely started in person. It can be a little bit tricky for us to virtually dissect that community, and what you're going to see is that the hybrid model is indeed quite fractured. So we're going to kind of pull out the pieces of the community that we can find and extrapolate some of our insights from that. So we definitely won't be able to cover everything today, but just to kind of set the context for the language here, because I think they use community very, very broadly, like a lot of brands are guilty of. And as community builders and designers, we often look for like, well, what is like the gathering place, and kind of help us like wrap our hands around like a definition of this community. And they certainly use it too broadly. So there would be 4 considered tiers. You have guests who are just members of like anyone connected to an event, in-store classes, sharing user-generated content online, and they have like a loyalty program as well. So that's like the guest category. Then they have the actual Lululemon team, which is staff ambassadors who engage and promote the community locally. And these are usually store employees who run the classes, run the social media accounts, and share like content online. And then you have store ambassadors, which are mostly yoga or fitness teachers who run the in-store classes. And as Laura will share, that's a really big part of like the heart of the community strategy. And so I'll let her dive into more detail on that. Then you have these global ambassadors, which are a little bit more like influencers. So to me, I think it's quite confusing to use the term ambassador so frequently for intending different areas. And the biggest gap that I think you'll see in this video is the activation of their guests. Like there's so much more that they can be doing to be fostering community, not just with fitness instructors or influencers or people of a certain like societal caliber, but your everyday person who has a ton of energy and passion for Lululemon, as I'm sure you'll see in this. So throughout these various community building efforts, Lululemon has built a really loyal following of customers who not only wear the clothing, but also deeply identify with the brand. And they now have more than 500 stores across different continents. And they do maintain a strong online presence, though, as I think you'll see here, the community element of that presence is quite decentralized and fractured. So without further ado, look at this. This is basically what we could find about the community. So when you type in Lululemon community, there are a ton of articles that come up about how community-led Lululemon is, which I don't doubt, but if you're like, okay, where is this community? You can't find it. Let's just say that. And so it is common for when there is like an ambassador program and guests and like so many different tiers, it is common for it to not all be in one place. I don't recommend that as a community like designer and architect, but it is what it is. So this is their kind of main landing page for community. They talk about primarily, it seems like here, this is where they're touting becoming an ambassador, which you do have to go into a retail store. But to me, that's just like a really big jump from wanting to be involved in the community and like connect with other members and wanting to be an ambassador. Like there's so many more like desires before wanting to be like a full-on ambassador, like meaning like you're a fitness instructor. And they have some content here. So like, okay, which I do think like content is one of the 3 pillars of community. But here I'm like, well, if events and conversation are 2 other pillars, where is that happening? And where are my options if I'm not ready to be a full-blown ambassador? Where are my options to get connected to a community? And so with that, Laura, I want to segue into, so we dove into like, okay, what are the Facebook groups saying? Which fun fact, when you do Google Lululemon community, one of the results, Lululemon community, is literally just their Facebook page, which is not a community. Get that out of here. I'm just like, blah. It's just like gross. Your Facebook page is not a community. Stop that. Just stop. But Laura, you got access to the Studio Mirror Facebook community. So I'd love to have you just share a little bit about what you found there and your experience with Lululemon. Just kind of take it away and share what you see.
Well, even going back to the page you were just sharing, so they have the ambassador, but then there's another tab where it goes into members, and it talks about different levels of memberships, and then that's under Studio in the top on the top navigation bar. Right. Okay. Studio, it goes into. Let
me see.
It goes into.
Oh my.
Oh, well,
broke the internet.
I think, but it goes into membership.
Okay.
And then there's another place, well, right there under About Us, it talks about the Sweat Collective. So yes, so there's the membership page. Which I really believe used to say community, which talks about the mirror, but it also talks about just this essential membership, which is basically store discounts, I think, if I had to sum it up. And then the Sweat Collective, which is under the About Us section, 2 more columns over.
Oh, okay. So confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it is very confusing because I kept wondering where I was supposed to engage. So I'm clicking all around. So that's the Sweat Collective, which I feel like that's ambassadors to me, or like fitness trainers, I think. And there's also another place for creators who are social media content creators who have their own network. So it's very confusing.
It's very confusing.
It
Yeah.
definitely feels like there's something missing here. Like, these things should all be up front and center on the like big community page, right? Like just have the four options just out there, which one is aligned with you, and also just like having some sort of membership or like some sort of a user feedback cycle, like something where not even a feedback cycle, but a user cycle, some way that you can see that you can continue to progress and become a stronger and stronger member within this community cycle would be really helpful. Being able to say, start as a member, then become a guest, then become whatever it is. What were you going to say?
100%. I would add to that. Like it's really what's confusing about when brands, large brands in particular, do this is that they actually just have like all these different community programs, and it's not, but you, upon first like sight, you're like, oh, do I start here and then do I progress? They're like, no, this is for this person and this is for this person and this is for this person. And you get the impression that they're completely siloed, but there's never any clarity around like, how do I know I'm in the right place? Like here, there's a little, this I appreciate, like the like identities here. So like, okay, I'm an athlete. I would know if I'm in the right place. Okay, who is eligible? So all these different types of people are coming into this same thing, the same program. Confusing, to say the least.
Again, it seems like the main point there is to be qualified for a discount. Like it makes me think about like an interior designer who's just getting like the wholesale pricing. Like that's how it feels versus what I would describe as a community. So
great. Yep, 100%. So show us what you did find, the Facebook group that you were accepted to. Show us like what on, if we're trying to just find the community, like heart of community activity, and it seems like there's something happening in a Facebook group. So can you share your screen and walk us through that?
Yeah, so I'll back up for just a second to say that I didn't even anticipate that there was a community. And I really want to give a shout out to the instructors of the Lululemon, what used to be called the Mirror, now called the Studio, who are doing a fabulous job at trying to build community. They are congratulating members on like the numbers of classes they've taken, calling them out by name, noticing their birthdays, and even saying things like, DM me on Instagram if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. And then recently, one of the instructors said, oh, and you could just pop that in the Facebook group. And I said, Facebook group? I've been on this thing for 3 years. I've never heard of this Facebook group. So I went to find it. And this is the best that I could find, which I will now share my screen and show you.
And when I searched Lululemon community in Facebook groups, this didn't even pop up as a result. So it's literally just, it feels so random what you can find and what you're actually able to engage with.
But I recognized the instructors as a little bit older photo, but I was like, okay, it's got the name of the brand. There's no logo. Maybe that should have been a clue. I skipped here, this whole thing where they do actually tell you it's a fan group. But the very first post is from an instructor who's like one of my favorite teachers. And it's about the workout is going to change, and it links to his Instagram. We have people with like customer service questions, talking about new classes, people asking for help with their toning of their triceps. And I thought, okay, well, there actually is like a community here. How did I not know about this? And it's not until I got like way down here that I realized the admin had asked a question or posted here that she had been in touch with the Lululemon Studio team. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is not even an official Facebook group. But I think what this Facebook group shows is that there's a desire for members to engage with one another, and people want help like navigating like, hey, what class is good for this? Or what did you think of? There's a lot of chit chat about, they've just rolled out like step aerobics, and there's a lot of excitement about vintage step aerobics classes. But there's so much potential for people whom I would consider in their community to engage with one another, and the instructors. Like the fact that the instructors are active in the page is even more telling. So that's what I was able to find as the best Facebook group, but it actually has nothing to do with Lululemon itself.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah, like for those who are watching this, before we started recording, we were talking about like our experiences with this community, and I mentioned that I used to run an ambassadorship program or help run an ambassadorship program for a company called Singularity University, and as a result, I have like a soft spot for ambassadorships for things like this, where I really feel like people like these teachers in that community, they have such an amazing opportunity to really humanize the brand on behalf of the brand here. And it sounds like they're doing an excellent job of doing that. And they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart and their passion for this thing right now. And it feels, at least to me, like this is a really excellent opportunity for Lululemon to look into what already exists in the world and absorb that as much as they can into this existing ambassadorship that they have. If we can add that into the like member journey, into the path that someone can go down to become involved in Lululemon, that could give an outlet for these people who are already doing this work, while also promoting Lululemon and being like an excellent part of that. And it could just be a win-win on all parts. It seems like something that Lululemon could be utilizing more.
I couldn't agree more, because the communities that Lululemon is really highlighting on their page seem to be all about getting discounts in the store and discounts on merchandise or access to things live in the store, where this community is basically just fan love, like Lululemon love, like giving back their appreciation and saying how much they're enjoying the classes. Feels like there's a lot of value there that's not being tapped.
Yeah, what we used to do for Singularity was we actually had different chapters all across the US, which it looks like they're trying to do too. And we had those chapters transparently on one of our websites. It's still out there if you ever are interested in Singularity. They have a website where they have listed out all of the different chapters. And what I could see for Lululemon is when I went into their ambassador page, they didn't have those chapters. They didn't have an outline of what cities are currently involved and how you can get involved in those cities. But to me, that sounds like a really easy first step, like what you were saying, Bri, about how we need a first step, like something before becoming the ambassador yourself, just joining one of these local communities and even having that community tagged onto the website somewhere. Like what we had was a map of the world, and we had all of these different location points on that map. And each of those location points, what you could do is have that location tagged to whatever resources are connected to there. Right. So if this community, for instance, is specific to a location, which I don't know if it is, it looks like it's a more general one, maybe it could go somewhere else. But if it was like a Vancouver community or something like that, then we would know exactly where to go if we were part of that Vancouver, if we were in Vancouver and we wanted to get involved.
Right, which I think like the Lululemon strategy was like very events based. So all of their like retail spaces have been like hosting those local events, and like that is such a testament to the power of in-person community gathering. And it seems like the transition to this like hybrid model of like, okay, well now, you know, I don't know someone in my area who like it seems very exclusive, like you kind of have to find out about it in person, which there's an air of like mystery with that's enticing, but just making it a little bit more accessible to people who are maybe trying to find like so Laura, if I were like, you know, trying to like, I'm like, oh, I love like Laura does this whole mirror thing and there must be an online community. Like if I was coming to Lululemon, like the pathway for me to do like online classes when I get my studio mirror, it doesn't seem like super clear to me. If I was like, I want to do Lululemon because I've heard about this awesome community, like how do I get involved and online or in person? And there's no like air traffic control right now, let alone like and you're right, Laura, I think the main thing that they are touting is like loyalty programs, which are not community building. And I think the biggest gap that I see is like the bringing people to one like gathering place for that online conversation, which clearly like the conversation is happening in all these smaller pockets, but I think they're missing an opportunity to bring it together. And there's just so many tools now that I think there's really frankly no excuse to not have like a simple, clear community gathering place online where you can be guided into the program or like connections that are going to help solve your problem.
Yeah.
So well said. Yes. Yeah.
So just to kind of like bring it all together, if you had to say like one thing that you think this community is doing really well and one thing that you would change, what would you share?
Well, I would share that I think they have incredible instructors, especially the original instructors from the Mirror. They have a loyal following. They're doing a great job at highlighting members. And they're trying, right? They're trying to say, hey, reach out to me on Instagram or put it in Facebook. But Lululemon isn't really giving them a space and a platform to bring those instructors together. What they seem to have invested in instead are more partnerships with other brands like Pure Barre and Dog Pound and all these other studios. And even just looking at that quick Facebook group, that's not what people are really talking about. So it makes me wonder if they've made a large investment in something that isn't really member driven.
It's a really good insight. That's a really good insight, Laura.
And I mean, I hate to say they're trying to sell off the Mirror, which I think is an incredible asset because it's their people, but I don't think they're necessarily leveraging the power of community to the best of their ability, and that maybe not knowing how to do it or what to do with it, they're choosing to divest themselves of a pretty significant financial investment.
Yeah. Well, and they've done such a great job of creating this like landscape for like teachers to interact with students. And so it seems odd to shift that strategy to other like marketplaces, other brands, rather than investing in the ambassadors, the teachers, the instructors who have essentially built their brand. It seems like from all the evidence that I see, it really reminds me of our Spotify dissection, where our biggest critique was, Spotify, the community actually is really phenomenal. And especially there's like a big part of, I don't even see it, the community is like product feedback, like that's like a whole other area, like not marketing, not a loyalty program. Don't get me to like, don't make me buy more shit, but I just want to like give you feedback on what I want to see next. Like that's not anywhere. I'm like,
How about the fact that they rolled out step classes? And I was like, oh, perfect. Well, let me buy the step that they're showing on the Mirror. Like let me go to the Lululemon website. I'm going to order a step so I could take the class. No, I had to go to Amazon and order a step.
No, that's so bad. Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. With the Spotify community, they really had such an amazing gathering place. It was a lot more centralized than this. But the biggest critique was you have the opportunity to essentially empower all of these artists who are creating their own micro communities. And they're doing that in other places. So like in the same way, your instructors are going to create their own micro communities. I'm sure like your favorite instructors have their own places. Why not as a brand be the facilitate those connections? Like you already are. Why don't you just give them like the proper tools and resources to be able to facilitate more of those connections online and in person? It just doesn't make sense why you wouldn't do that.
I could not agree more. And these instructors are really trying. I mean, they all have really vibrant Instagram accounts, but I kind of cringe inside as a community leader every time I hear an instructor say, oh, well, just reach out to me on Instagram.
Yes, it's like, I understand wanting to grow the one-on-one connection, but what those instructors are doing in their classes is they're fostering a space where they are connecting with members, but members are connecting with each other as well. And so why? Well, I know why, because we're so conditioned with social media to only rely on our relationship to an audience and not to think about our role as a community facilitator, but instructors are already doing that. And I hope that they will see a huge opportunity to create not just an audience around their own following, but a community of people who are connecting with each other because of the common affinity for their instruction style. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Lila, what are your insights?
I feel like I delved into a number of them, but it's sort of on the positive side. I've mentioned, like, because of my experience, both with that community I mentioned and as a dance instructor, which is the thing I also do, I have a soft spot for in-person community building. I think that it's a really powerful way of going about it. That isn't always utilized, especially in the tech industry and especially in many of the communities that I've looked at. I often see people focusing on the virtual and the digital, which is valuable and amazing and remote and can be accessible in a lot of really important ways. But I love the fact that Lululemon started with these in-person events. I think that that's really powerful. I think that means that they've been able to, it looks like, create and build a really large, robust set of communities. And I wish that they were really identifying them as those things, as sets of communities that exist all over the place, both global communities, like the one that Laura is looking at and that we just looked at together, and as individual local communities. I feel like that could be a really excellent place to start playing with the idea of creating a clear user journey, which is the other thing that I wanted to give feedback on, is that I just think having a clear user journey, even like on the front page of the community, or even doing that internally so that you have it, so that the Lululemon team has it and knows and understands how each member is involved and what steps along the way they can get involved. I think that could be really helpful for Lululemon themselves and for the people who want to get involved.
Yeah.
Because the Lululemon website, that is the community website, has so much potential for being a spot where everyone goes to, the spot where the global community is involved with one another and then can be segmented and then can be divided into these filtered out into these different groups so that people can easily see where they belong within it. And since as we're all seeing right now, there are so many people who want to be involved in Lululemon, it seems like a great opportunity for the team to continue to promote their own marketing and to really build something that is also impactful for the people and helps people get more fit, like get healthier. I'm really surprised actually looking at this, because I wasn't as connected to Lululemon as it sounds like Laura was, but I mentioned that I used to run an ambassador program, and I'm a dance instructor, and I help run the like Seattle dance scene. And looking at this, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know, but I could probably qualify to be an ambassador here. I could technically be one of those athletes. But because Lululemon isn't something that's popped up also in the types of worlds that I've been in, it's just not been on my radar. So additional feedback that I could see is, if we are going to get involved in brands, like if we're going to put the money into that, which I agree with Laura, like I think it makes more sense for us to put the money into specific individuals rather than larger brands right now. But if we did, putting that money into the brands that are reaching out to the individuals that we want to work with might be really helpful here. Like I could see, if I had known about this program through through dance shoes, through like purchasing a dance shoe for my dance community, or through a local studio, I probably would have been much more inclined to get involved than I have ended up finding out about it, which was not through any of those things.
Interesting. That's great feedback. Awesome. Well, thank you both for your insights here. It also, what you were saying, Lila, at the beginning, does remind me of when we dissected the Canva community, and it was also like just horribly decentralized, but it was really clear there were a lot of different community programs, but they literally had to make like a YouTube video, like doing like air traffic control of like, they were like the Canva community explained. I was like, you need a video to explain it? This is so bad. But it was actually like, I'm like, well, at least you made a video. So I think lots of opportunity. Clearly they're doing an amazing job. I think a lot of opportunity also to continue to empower their instructors and make the community a little bit less confusing. Did you have something you wanted to
Nothing but positive to say about the actual mirror, which I still will always call it the mirror, although it's now Lululemon Studio. If you're working from home and you like to exercise, you should get one immediately. I literally use it every single day and we love it.
We'll include Laura's affiliate link for the mirror.
Although I guess I'm a super user.
See, but that's exactly what I'm like. You are a super user, but you're not like an ambassador. So there needs to be more like wooing and more programming for people like you, Laura, who are so ardently like involved and such big fans, but just not like a instructor. I don't know.
I've sold like 10 of them to girlfriends and the friends of mine. I'm like, oh, you got to get this thing.
See? Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Awesome. Well, I like to always say at the end, Lululemon team, if and when you're watching this, just a disclaimer that we hope you take this dissection in the spirit that it is intended, with curiosity and generosity. We know it's so easy for us to, as community builders, we know just how hard it is to foster and build community. And what we get to dissect and see in this episode never encapsulates all the obstacles and hurdles that you are trying to overcome internally and externally to foster community. So take this video with the curiosity and generosity that it is intended, please. And we will see you all next week. So thanks for joining. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.